having that kind of affection. So she's just a delight, and our two pussycats here are a delight. And I know that animals can bring joy in your life. And you think, well, what? So what if the Earth blows up in December? Well, you've given an animal a lovely experience. That's part of what life is all about. What kind of experiences you bring to it. My friend Mary brought good experiences to her life, to her husband. She and her husband had a great marriage. A marriage people would give their left arm for. They were so happy. They were best friends. Jeff was her older brother's one of his best friends. And of course, is the kid sister hanging around. Jeff didn't make fun of her the way the other boys did. He was nice. He was pleasant. He took the time to talk to her. She listened to his conversations and said, this is somebody I need to get to know. I like what he has to say. I like the way he treats his friends. I like the way he treats my brother. I like the way he treats me. There's only a couple of year difference between the two of them. And Jeff today is still a good friend, a good loved one. He's been a great husband and father. And he's the kind of guy you want to have as your best friend and your neighbor. So everything you do creates your environment. Everything you do creates the cause and effect or karma of your life. What do they say? It's not what happens, it's how you handle it. Are you going to be mean and bitter and nasty, or are you going to be pleasant and kind? You carry that with you to the astral world. You carry that with you to your next lifetime. How many lessons did you learn effectively in this lifetime? It's less you have to worry about in the astral world. It's less you have to worry about in your next lifetime. The more you get done now, the less you have to get done in the future. If you've really learned the lesson, that's part of your wisdom. It's part of your doctorate in life. So therefore, you are helping yourself by being gracious, by facing things instead of hiding. If I ever hear one more idiot say, oh, I got drunk, I just couldn't stand the problems. Well, you still got the same problems, but now you're a drunk. Or now you're a stoner. Or whatever it is you are. Or you're a gambler. You still have the same problems. You don't escape karma. There's no place to run and no place to hide. That's what your astrology chart is all about, which we've discussed before. It's the series of lessons. It's the timing of the lessons. It's the situations that you have to learn over again or brand new. It gives you an opportunity to see what your strengths and weaknesses are. It doesn't tell you whether or not you should get out of bed that day, because if you've got to go to work, you've got to get out of bed. Showing up in your jammies is not going to help. So everything has a purpose and a reason and a wisdom. What was the lesson Mary was learning in this lifetime? Well, one of the things she did by being there at each turn of events in cancer therapy was to help other people in the future. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I know I've been criticized, but by medical personnel and by people who have cancer patients and their families, there's no cure, so to speak, for cancer. There are a few blood cancers that seem to be effectively treated in children. Not all. You can cut a cancerous tumor out and be fine, but that's the tumor that you cut out. There is no cure at this stage of existence for cancer. You can live with cancer, which is one of the things I had said to Mary. You can choose to live with it or you can die with it. If you're going to live with it, then go ahead and take the treatments. If you want to die with it, then don't, and just live for as long as you do. And there are all kinds of miracles where people decide they're not going to get treated and they live for another 25 years and they outlive everybody else. So every person is different and how they handle the situation is different. We know that you can affect the outcome. What do they say? The fact of being observed changes the outcome. Because you have a new consciousness and there's a new person or situation observing you. Well, what you don't realize is the universe is always watching. So I use the analogy of ants in a terrarium. They're going about their business. They don't realize the rest of the world is watching. But by observing yourself and observing how you respond to situations determines whether or not you're learning the lessons. And that doesn't mean you have to be cheerful every day, because I don't know anyone, even I'm not cheerful every day, all day. Sometimes I get depressed. And sometimes I get a headache and I don't want to talk to anybody. I have a really good disposition, but not everyone does. And you're not going to rot in hell because you don't have a great disposition or you're not cheerful every day. Nobody can be cheerful every day, all day long, because different situations happen. You may see a sad thing on the news. You may get bad news about a friend. You may get bad news about yourself. And responding to that situation at that moment for an appropriate time is psychological good health. But dwelling and making it worse is not psychological good health. That'll drive you crazy, and it distorts your perspective. It distorts the lessons you're supposed to learn. And I have to say that Mary did not distort anything as she was going through her process with cancer. She saw things as they were. She was very realistic. And the doctors were stunned at how she kept her own records. She kept a record of how she was feeling on a daily basis, how she responded to each medication. She was co-doctoring herself. She was very upfront with how she was doing acupuncture, how she was doing herbal remedies, and a couple of doctors didn't like it, and so she switched doctors because she knew that not everything comes from a pill bottle. Not everything comes from a shot that's going to be a cure. Herbal teas are great for everyone. There are certain types of teas that respond to certain types of situations. Chamomile tea is known to calm you down and calm the tummy. If you need a pick-me-up tea, there are teas that do that. So she was smart enough to know that different foods affect your life differently, different teas, different herbs, etc. So the doctors that she wound up with were doctors who also understood that, and doctors who also understood that when she said enough, it was enough. And if she didn't like the doctor, she got rid of that doctor, because you have to be in partnership with your life. Whether it's a marriage or a child or a pussycat, a puppy dog or a doctor, a dentist, you have to be in partnership. And you are in partnership with the universe. You are in partnership with your guardian angels. You're in partnership with your flowers. You're in partnership with your surroundings, which helps create how successfully you get through life. You get through the day. Mary's soul didn't disappear. House was one of my favorite TV shows, and a lot of people, especially House, was afraid of the afterlife. People who are afraid of the afterlife like to try to say there is no afterlife, because then they don't have to deal with it. Big surprise! There is an afterlife and a pre-life to the next physical life. But guess what? Life never ceases. Because if you learned in science, you can't destroy energy, you just rearrange it, like water. If you heat it, it's steam. If you freeze it, it's ice. It's still the same molecules moving at a different speed. Your soul has been split out from the God force. Again, why? I don't know. I think the whole idea is lousy. God did not consult me. Otherwise, he would have said, no, we want to stay home. But you remain forever. It's your consciousness that changes and evolves. It is very sad when someone says, oh, that's me, I can't change. It's like a first grader saying, I can't read now and I'll never read. You are constantly evolving and improving. And when we come back from this recent message we're going to have, you are going to find out how you can make your life better.